Hey everybody, this is Chris from American Lunchbox Podcast. Last week on the show, we had a pretty divisive conversation, art versus the artist. We kind of got into some topics also about sometimes that there's artists that do pretty despicable things. I took the hardline approach that in defense of the art itself and divorced that from the artist. But I think a couple things got muddied up in our conversation, and I want to take the moment to clarify those things. Besides the fact that I was being jokey in what was a pretty serious topic, kind of also was like, I had these things in my head where like, oh wow, I always wanted to talk about how modern day music's not passionate. This R. Kelly conversation will be a great time. No, it wasn't a great time. Also, just things I've been pondering about art stuff, about like, sometimes an artist on the edge of society is better at looking in than maybe someone who's got all this money that's on the middle of society looking down. Like that sometimes makes for better art. So I wanted to take the moment now to be exactly precise with my language and to clarify some stuff. Number one, I understand what R. Kelly and others did were despicable, scummy crimes that had real victims and hurt real people. And those people are still alive to deal with the consequences, and so are their families. So I 100% was not defending their actions. What we meant to do on the show was have a argument that was essentially a moral gray area. I think there are a lot of moral gray areas in our society. I just don't think we talk about them, or sometimes we defend them because we have sides or camps or things that we're a fan of or favorite of. I mean, if you think about it, in the last, since President Obama and Senator Romney in 2012, have we had a presidential election that was not between people that were accused of sexual assault or covering up for sexual assault. I mean, Hillary Clinton, thing is that she covered for her husband. Trump, obviously, grabbed him by the you-know-what. And Joe Biden also, although the news didn't want to talk about it, had some accusations as well and has some weird behavior as well. So, we all out there, if you voted in this last election, which most of us did, we all made a moral gray area choice in saying, I am turning a blind eye to this for the moment because of something else. And that's what I was doing. I look at the destruction of the art that happened in Syria by ISIS, and I know that, they in their mind thought, oh, these people are all infidels and let's destroy all this art because they deserve it. And the problem is now you have archaeologists that are going to go back and be paid over the years to piece this all together methodically because the art itself survives. I think about witch trials and people who were burned at the stake. And I know that history does not look too kindly on book burners, regardless of the situations of the moment. Not to say that these people's actions are decent. But I definitely look at the fact that what art means to us, that it's a message to the future, and that it's also something that we share in common as a collective society. And you look at caveman art, and when we go through and say, oh my God, we found something on a wall of a cave that was millions of years old. And we don't know if that caveman was a good person. It most likely was a bad caveman. Most of them were. But we don't erase the old caveman art because the caveman is now long dead and gone. We don't even know who that person is. The only thing that survives is the art. And I think that was my argument. There are lots of things in our society which we benefit from, and we don't hold to the same standard as these artists. For instance, let's say someone builds your house, contractor, find out that person was involved in the drug trade on the side, someone got killed. Okay. You sleeping on the street tonight? You going to give up your house? You going to give up the product that was built by that person because that person turned out to be a bad person? Probably not. We look at the stuff that we get, which is most likely from China, most likely being made in bad conditions in bad factories. Look at supply chains. If a factory worker did something bad, is Walmart giving back the money? Are you giving back the product? Are we going to take apart the shirt and turn it back into a cotton ball or put it back on a sheep? I don't think so. So, what? I do understand, though, the point that our host here made, in which he said, there is also a financial structure which these people built up. Like, these people were able to do their bad acts on top of an empire, like Bill Cosby, Michael Jackson, whatever, or whoever you think is wrong or what. But I think that's a good point. And it's also a good point because while I was arguing that art is collective, it is currently still under copyright for about 100 years, meaning someone, is making money off of that. But when I think of 100 years, I think of how we look back on old artists and we say, oh my gosh, that musician was great, but God, he was crazy. And I just think logically that's what's going to happen to Michael Jackson in 100 years. I am taking the bet that in 100 years, people are still going to listen to Michael Jackson music. And part of the reason I think that is because I see people listening to Michael Jackson right now. Like if I walk outside in Venice, I hear it all the time. And no one's questioning it. In fact, everyone's just enjoying what they're hearing. Now, is that different than sitting down and saying, I'm choosing to watch a TV show? Yeah, maybe music's a little different, but I just think the art is going to survive. And my aunt, though, brought up a good point. She said, listen, if it's the case that over the course of time, art survives, right? Like, let's say in 200 years from now, good art, the cream rises to the crop in terms of just great art, regardless of how the person was. Why is it my personal responsibility? Why is it my responsibility right here, right now, to help out this person who may still be benefiting from this in the moment? And I thought, that's a good point. I just hadn't considered that. So I guess thank you to everyone who had an opinion on this, because obviously it was a divisive topic. And I also like to give a shout out to the people who told me, hey, I think you're off base. And here's why I think you're logically off base, or why don't you think about it from this angle? And, instead of just condemning me for the comments. So, thank you again. I just thought it'd be a great conversation. I think it was a great conversation, but I just wanted to clarify those things less and get rid of the muddiness of the conversation. So thank you.
Well, that was quite brave and courageous of you, Chris, to simply address that. We had a choice here on American Lunchbox podcast to either address it or to move on from it. And I'm extremely proud of you that you're taking this on. And it's not being right or wrong. It's about an opinion here. And that's what gives us the freedom on this podcast to talk about things that you will not talk about. You can have an opinion about what we talk about, but until you are in this conversation and you're putting yourself out there in public, you know already the quote unquote dangers of and the mishaps that could happen in having these kinds of communications and these kinds of shows. So I applaud you. And I would say on this show, we're going to continue to talk about things that may or may not be, politically correct, or things that may, make your skin crawl, because this is a podcast. This is not a show that is going to be comparable to a news show or a commentary show. This is a podcast, and we are happy for all the support that you all give us. We're happy for all the comments. We're happy for all the subscriptions. We're happy for all the views. And we're hoping that you stay in there with us and allow us to mature, because some of this is about maturing. Some of this is about saying, this is what I think now, but maybe I'll think something different later as my life begins to mature. And you have to allow us to be able to have that. You got to allow us to be able to speak our truths as we see them today, even if you disagree. But we're so proud of you. I am proud of you. I'm proud of our listeners for commenting. Thank you so much. Do not hold back. Keep our feet to the fire, because we're going to continue to be as adamant as the things that we're passionate about, but also the things that we disagree about. Okay? Right. So as we move forward, there's a lot going on. We have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about what's happening with COVID, because we're still in it. At least that's what we think, but some states obviously don't think they're in it. As reported today, Texas.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Yeehaw. Texas is taking a stance. The governor has decided on March the 10th that all COVID restrictions will be lifted. No mask, no social distancing. All.
Back to business.
Back to business.
Grand reopening.
The grand reopening of the state will happen in March the 10th. Now, keep in mind, there were some other states that had already done this. And keep in mind, this is not the first time that this has happened in this journey. Iowa has already opened their state. South Dakota has already opened, and Mississippi is on the cusp of doing it as well.
Saying Cletus's roadkill sandwich shop is back open.
Cletus is, and I like Cletus. Don't bring Cletus into this, please. Shout out to Cletus down in Mississippi.
Get some comments from Cletus.
You know he a brother too. You know he a brother. But I say to you, who cares about these states? I said it. Yeah, I said it. For Iowa, I don't think it matters. South Dakota, I don't think it matters. And I don't know if you've been to Mississippi.
I think that's one of those states where I'm considered black, so I don't go to Mississippi.
Probably.
Sorry, Mississippi.
Sorry, Mississippi. No, Mississippi. No, Mississippi. No. No Mississippi. One Mississippi. Two Mississippi. Anyway, the only reason I say that, ladies and gentlemen, is because of the weather. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing to against these states. South Dakota, they've been locked down because of the snow. So there's been no need for social distancing because everyone usually stays home. Everyone already is in an environment that requires them to have what would be, because they're locked down by the weather. Now that doesn't mean that people don't work, but that means that less people are doing what they usually would do in the spring or the summer.
Well, it's just the same way with gun restrictions and everything else, is that you got people. We just live in a situation in which half the people live in a totally different reality than the people who live in the cities, and people assume that their lifestyle is the same. Like the whole country is not New York to L.A. or New York to San Francisco. Like, it's not populated as such. Like, when you live out in the open with no density, life is completely different. You don't have to worry about coming 6 feet from someone else. You could be 6 miles from someone else and get away with it. You need some super COVID to get sick at that point.
That's the whole point. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Densely populated. The whole state is ruled.
Yeah.
For the most part. Until it comes down to election days when you find, people all of a sudden are moving around and shifting. But that's another story. We won't go there. We'll let that go. But the reason why I say that, in comparison to Texas, this is the point that I'm making. Texas, I do care about. Why? Because a lot of Texans are Los Angeles. They come from LA. So don't bring y'all asses back here to LA because y'all think it's okay to do what y'all doing in Texas. It's a Republican governor. Why is that important? I'll wait.
What I think is, before you get into why you think it's important, okay. I think that what we're seeing here is a lot of what we've seen in Texas the last week.
A lot of what we see in Texas in general
has been based on turning around bad PR.
Cruz.
This week Ted Cruz at the CPAC made like a really over-the-top passionate speech. AOC flew down to Texas to turn the story around on the fact that she got caught BSing about her danger level during the Capitol invasion. And the Texas governor would like to change the narrative from the fact that the shit hit the fan on the power grid. So this state has become a political hotbed in the last week or couple weeks.
Yeah. To say the least. So now your governor over in Texas is deciding that what we're going to do.
Real quick, it's also that what we here in California think is a bad news story for him is maybe a really good news story for them, because their base is Republican. So they have to do things that are impressive to their constituents.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I made the point about the governor being a Republican. It's the constituents. He's crying on television. I take that back. He's crying hard on television about how we need employees to go back to work. We need small businesses to go back to get back into now let me explain to you. The SBA, the IRS, and Congress all have 3 different definitions of a small business. Now, what I think of a small business is the businesses that I'm accustomed to seeing in my community.
The coffee shop.
Yes.
Nail salon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even I'll say the 99-cent store for at least a local business.
Yeah.
I know them too. I know when I go into my local business, my local Cane's.
Something where you don't need a parking pass to get into.
That's what I'm saying. Now, that's our idea of a small business. But let me explain to you. A small business to Congress It's 5,000 employees or less. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Well, that's because of lobbyists. That's not because.
Hold on for a second. I don't even think a local Home Depot has that many employees. I don't even. So when we're talking about how the Republicans are looking at opening up their state, they're really talking to big business there. They're not talking about the small businesses.
And that's the thing. Like, if a corporation owns a number of those small businesses, then it's really just a huge business.
It's
operation.
just a huge freaking business. So
Texas is a big business state.
Listen, and without big business in that state, keep in mind, Texas is a hub, a middle hub for the country, a middle hub. In other words, there are certain places you have to go through Texas. You know, it's a middle hub, definitely a southern middle hub.
Well,
so,
a lot of comics are moving down there because they could easily get to either coast without feeling burnt out after the flight.
Exactly. So if you're flying out of Texas, that means that you don't have to put on a mask, right? That means you don't have to social distance on a plane.
Well, the airline is different than the state. Like, they might have different restrictions.
But no. It's a local thing. It's a state thing. If the state lifts all of these restrictions, then the TSA in that state will not have to be required to wear mask.
Well, you could still say on your business, no, you must have a mask if you wish to enter this business. Now it's just a choice of the business versus a mandate from the state.
It is a mandate from the state, but you can refuse the right to serve anyone under any circumstance, as long as it's not racially or sexually but actually you can still do that too, as a matter of fact. But my thinking is that how are you going to protect your people if you get a spike? How are you going to say at any point that you are looking at the community at large when you put out this kind? I think you have to crawl before you walk, period. I just think you got to crawl. I don't think this is a good idea.
Just do like Andrew Cuomo and fudge the numbers.
Ooh, what about that? He's in for that's another story.
A perfect real quick.
Wait. That right? Don't. I was not going to bring up your governor.
That's a
You know he's from Queens, y'all. You know he's from Queens.
That's a perfect example of what the media could do to you. Please, no one ever put me on a pedestal just to rip me down later, because that everyone knew about these issues. The sexual allegation came out a little later, but the stuff with the nursing homes was out. Like, everyone, if anyone was paying attention and didn't just believe what the news was saying, it was clear that something was being, some turd of some sort was being polished in regards to this situation, and it's just he has become unuseful. He has become unuseful, and now the fall begins. It's all media narrative. The upswing was a media narrative, and so is the downswing.
It's a mess for him right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, listen, we have more for you coming up. By the way, I'm going to talk about my trip. Yeah, I went to Colorado.
Flying during a pandemic.
Listen,
what happened here?
Don't judge, bro. We'll be right back. Yes, we will. We'll be right back. So I went to Colorado, right? I went to Colorado with my
business or pleasure?
It was business. It was a business retreat. It was with my colleagues.
It was a business trip that was pleasurable?
A business trip that I did work with. We did work. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful trip.
Jet skiing while kind of talking about business?
Okay. Can I get to my point, Christopher?
I just want to hear how responsible.
Can I get to my point, Christopher?
I just wanted him to say how responsible he was during this
So
getaway.
Listen, keeping in mind about the whole COVID thing, I just wanted to express what, having been to other states and how they're handling it. I just wanted to express, we just talked about Texas, and when I went to Colorado, it was in a sense, I would say moderately COVID, how can I say it? I don't know, moderately COVID in processes, I guess.
The restrictions were
limited?
Restrictions
were moderate. They weren't over the top. They weren't under. It made sense. It was, people wore masks. You had to wear a mask. You had to be social distance. But not at the ski resort. There was no social distancing.
Wait a second. Business retreat with a ski resort? Go on.
Hold on. Hold on. We were not staying at a ski resort. Let me get this right now. I'll put up some of the photos or videos of this. Yes, we did go snowboarding. Yes, we did do some things, some fun things. This conversation is going to be over real soon. All I wanted to say is...
One question. Did you fly first class?
That's none of your damn business, Christopher, what we flew.
Well, at least
yes, we flew first class.
Oh, my God.
Yes, we flew first class. It was a business trip. It's tax write-off. What are you talking about? It's a tax write-off. What would you do if your business was paying for it? Hello? There's a certain kind of peer pressure involved in this stuff.
Man, this is one of the most responsible pandemic stories I've ever heard.
This was extremely responsible. We're setting off for the second quarter of the year. This is how we do it. I mean, I don't understand what the problem is, ladies and gentlemen. All I'm telling you, I'm reporting to you that in Colorado, where we were
on the ski slope.
Ignore him.
Or is more of a snowboard.
Ignore him. In Colorado, where we were, we were able to. Actually, one restaurant we had to eat outside. So, and that was in what they call it is Breckenridge or Breck.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. But then, and when we went to Leeds, you could actually eat inside. So it depends on what city you were in.
Okay.
In regards to how the restrictions were placed, but we were extremely happy with the trip. I can barely move right now, man, bro. I can barely move right now. You're sitting here. You don't understand how ergonomically I am sitting right now to avoid the pain that's in my ass right now. As we were snowboarding up and down these hills, I fell dramatically. Yeah. Ugly. I got footage of it, but you won't see it. And I either bruised my pelvic butt bone, lower small area, because, I'm fine, though. I'm fine. I'm fine for everybody who's out there. I know someone's going to say, what happened? But I'm fine.
He was able to pad it with some money, and it got more relaxed.
Oh, here we go with this guy. But I made it through. But of course, it's been a few days now. I didn't feel anything the first day, but except for the pain. But now, today I'm actually wearing my snow boots here in Los Angeles. I came in. Chris said, "What the hell are you wearing these snow boots for?" First of all, they're very comfortable.
It is raining in LA. People do overreact when it rains sometimes.
There it is. Thank you, Christopher. It's raining, so therefore it's cold. But that's not the reason why I'm actually wearing these snow boots. Because the snow boots actually gives my ankles more support. Yeah. And what you don't realize is that the butt bone is connected to the ankle bone. The ankle bone is connected to the knee bone. I think you heard this on before.
Not like that.
Okay, good enough. What you don't realize is that when I'm walking, if I have on, and I've tried this already, if I have on shoes that don't have ankle support, I can feel the pain in my pelvic, back, small of my back, basically. But I'm fine. If we were out there today, I'll do it again. Just for your information. I would not complain about it. I'm not complaining about it now. But ladies and gentlemen, if you happen to go snowboarding, make sure you get lessons first. That was my first time.
Really?
I went. I know how to ski, but I never snowboarded before.
Yeah, I'm more of a skier than a snowboarder.
I never snowboarded before, and it is not like skateboarding, because I skateboard too, but it is not like skateboarding. Okay. Not like it. It's a whole different ball game with snowboarding. But here's the good part. Something else I did last on this trip that was actually a lot of fun. We went ski mobiling.
Oh.
Again, the only two things we did, everything else was business. Everything else was business. I promise. Everything else was business. But I got to tell you guys, we went about 50 miles in elevation. Yeah. And we did a 2.5. Listen, I've traveled around the world. Literally. And this trip was probably top 3 in my list.
I'm getting jealous. I want to I haven't done some skiing in a long time.
You should, man. And it's beautiful up there. I'll put some video up of my trip so you guys can see it, but it's phenomenal. I would suggest anyone, if you're going up in that area, definitely go do the ski mobile thing. They have tours, intermediate, advanced, and beginner tours. Yeah. So the kids were out there, and it was really nice. We did the advanced tour, so that's when we went way up in the mountains, and it was incredible, man. It was incredible.
They say that a lot of people in the Midwest are religious because of the visual landscape. Like when you look out and just see like Earth,
Man.
it really makes you think that there's something else greater that made all of this, you know?
You're speaking volumes right now. They're going to put that in the next Bible, what you just said. Yeah, it really is. It's what Chris just said is exactly what you feel. You feel so small. Like what you're seeing is so vast, so beautiful. And it's like, how could this be just for us? It's incredible. I had that moment several times being out there. It's like, thank you, God, for allowing me to have this experience. And I'm not going to start crying or anything. But
now, when you say the next Bible, are you talking about the fact that as books continue to get banned, that maybe the current Bible is going to get banned soon?
No. I don't think that.
We have some book bannings going on this week.
We did, and are you, Dr. Seuss, poor guy. It's not his fault he was a racist.
This is maybe a longer conversation.
You think so?
Maybe we might have to come back for.
We're gonna have to come back again. Didn't we just come back? What the hell is going on here?
I don't know.
Where's the producer on this show? I don't know. Director on this show. Did we just come back?
I think we need a third man to clarify mistakes.
I guarantee we need to hire somebody because we just left the show and we're coming right back. But I think you're right. So when we come back, we'll talk more about the racist Dr. Seuss. Oh, don't worry. That was a joke. That was a joke. That's not true. Wait, I think it is true, though. I think they did. Wait. Okay. When we come back, we'll talk more about that. So, Chris, did you know that Dr. Seuss was a racist?
No.
No, and I don't think he was either. By the way, I think he unfortunately was like most white people during that time. They were just in a culture that allowed them the freedom to be able to express through art as they saw it. And this topic is extremely serious because when we look back in history, during the time where black people were the butt of most jokes, they too were a part of that.
There was also, though, a lot of people think that the current racial lens that we look through existed back then, when in reality, a lot of people back in the day were just considered foreigners. Like things that are now considered ethnic subgroups might have been looked at by the American majority consensus as that person's a foreigner from a faraway land.
Okay.
Or Mexicans more considered just a foreigner.
Well, I can't speak. I can't say that to be true.
The depictions in those books, just to clarify for those who don't know, it's like, black person in a grass skirt from Africa and, no shoes.
Asian people.
Asian person with the stereotypical face. And the pointy hat. But also
I think they mentioned the slant of their eyes.
But are they talking about, I mean, I don't know if he's talking about Asian Americans or black Americans. I think is it more referencing like this was the view of foreigners and foreign cultures and more of a stereotypical view of those cultures, which do have visual differences from, jeans and a t-shirt or slacks and, a sports jacket as people used to dress in?
You know what?
You see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying. And, but I do think that in a creative space, artists do have a responsibility. Let's go all the way back. I mean, we go back to the Sistine Chapel, right? We go back to art looking a certain kind of way. I've been there. I've seen the Sistine Chapel, and I look up and I realize that these were beautiful images, right? It was a choice made. There were beautiful images that you could see when you look at certain depictions of what people were at the time.
Yeah.
So as an artist, you still have an opportunity to paint a picture versus being stereotypical. Now, I don't know how you all feel about this, but I'm a little, I give a certain amount of of leverage, or I give them a certain amount of ease with this because of the times that they were in.
Well, I have a much different argument, and
Now hold on for a second. By the way, go and take a look. Mind you, I have all of the Dr. Seuss books.
Yeah.
Because I have four children, so they have gone over the years the same books.
Right.
I have all of the Dr. Seuss books.
right. Okay. So before I even get into the other stuff, something's going on up there.
Man, what
Sorry.
the hell is going on in the studio these days? Ladies and gentlemen, please, that is not us passing gas
I think
here.
someone just bit someone. We'll get into that later. The okay, real quick on the because one of the arguments I've heard is, well, kids are going to look like this, and they're going to realize that they see themselves portrayed in a negative light with that, and therefore we need to stop and teach in this moment. But isn't that then teaching the kids that they are viewed like to a kid looking at this? Wouldn't they just think, oh, that's a foreigner? Because so you're now saying to a child, oh, this is the racial way in which people were depicted. So now you're just teaching this woke crap to kids that are younger and younger. Or you're just saying, oh, you can't look at these books at all because they're offensive. But does a child see offense?
Well,
Does a child see that offense?
That's a good question, and the answer is no, they do not. They only see what they're being taught, and it's like the old saying: a child doesn't come out of races. A child doesn't know the difference. All they see, and as they get older, they may question it, but it's up to parents to properly guide them. But keep in mind, it's the times that they're in. Be mindful. There were children taken to lynches to see black men being lynched. It was a part of a community that, now whether they thought that it was entertainment or disgraceful, it was a part of their culture. So we have to be very careful how we teach children.
I don't think Dr. Seuss was going to lynches or.
Don't get me started. I don't know what white people were doing back there.
Dr. Seuss was a liberal.
Listen, it doesn't matter. I'm
like an actual liberal, not like what
but
we
I'm not
today
accusing
call
Dr.
liberal.
Seuss. I'm on Dr. Seuss's side, by the way. Let me just be clear.
Yeah.
I am saying Dr. Seuss gets a pass from me. I'm saying that the body of his work does not depict it. I think there's certain books. They chose 5 or 6. So that tells me that there are instances, because of the era he was in, because of how he saw the world during that time, created it to reflect what was commonly said, so that kids would not think that it was different or not, because that's what all they saw.
I'm going to come at this from a totally different angle, which might be controversial, but here we go.
Oh, Lord. You just did a speech, Christopher. Christopher, you just did a speech.
Yeah. When I have to.
Here he goes again, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
When Battle here says, don't you think it would be fun to do a podcast? And I was like, yeah. And then it cut to me typing out like, in clarification, what I meant to say. You got me, dude.
Here we go.
I was an anonymous random guy before this show started.
I'm gonna put on my seatbelt here. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna explain what I mean by this statement. But not only is it okay in terms of the context in which it existed in some of these cases, which I'm about to mention, hold on, but it should in some way be revered as a stepping stone to greater representation. Here's what I mean by that.
I like where this is going. Now you got to make it clear, though. I'm not going to help you either. I'm not going to help you.
Italian Americans are a great example of this because we don't get offended. And Italian Americans broke onto the scene with mafia movies. Italian Americans still love mafia movies, but also know that the mafia is bad. And now there are more opportunities that are not just linked to ethnicity in the greater media scape. Look at pro wrestling, a character like Umaga, who was a big fat guy who was like a quote-unquote savage that they got from Africa. He was a character in the 80s when characters were stereotypical and foreigners were seen as weird and strange and different. Now we have the internet, so now we could talk to someone across the world and realize they're just probably very dissimilar as us. But that didn't exist back then. And then there was a mystique in which now that person wouldn't be portrayed like that today. But maybe that's kind of how a new culture or a new ethnicity at that time broke onto the scene Also, was friends with someone who was in the Latin music industry. We had a real long and real, somewhat intense argument about Spanish Latin representation in the film industry, saying that there's only a certain percentage of Latinos in the film industry. It needs to be more, and my argument was that it will be more once this might be a kind of a side argument, but another thing is sometimes representation is also based on the percentage of people that exist in that country. Meaning, if there is a country that is almost 100% Asian, most likely their film stars will be 100% Asian. In this country, let's say the population is... This is kind of a side argument that we had at a different time.
And,
maybe,
and you're not going to win this argument. Because,
right. Okay, let's focus on... My argument is that as population...
People right now are saying, what the...
My argument is just that logically over the course of time, as in our country, as Latinos become white, as the majority, whatever you want to call that, the majority ethnic, is that the movie stars will not only become then there will more movie stars will be
not America.
Okay. Side argument for another time. I don't want to do what I did last week, which is mix random arguments. Let's back to the original argument.
Hold on. No, I got to address this for a second. I'm just going to nip this in the bud for Christopher.
Well, no, we need that's just a side conversation.
Okay, you sure? Because I could just checkmate on.
All right, so hold on. We're having two separate conversations.
Okay,
one of which is that stereotypical representation leads to real representation later.
Okay, I'm listening.
So that even though it's seen historically, looking back, as a disrespectful representation, at that point there was no representation, and someone said, "Hey, you want to in? Here's your in," and someone took that, and that led to that becoming the general culture.
Okay, I'll take that. I don't have a problem.
In just the same way that pizza is now American food.
Listen.
Or Mexican food is kind of now American food.
No.
Because over the course of time,
if you're going to Taco Bell,
strange and
if you're going to Taco Bell,
that's just shit food.
Exactly.
And by the way, I didn't do that last week, and even though you implied that.
No,
that's not where I was going. But okay. But no, what I'm saying is that over the course of time, what is mysterious and unique and look at this look at the freak show from afar. As you get to know that person, you can no longer portray that group or that person in that light. And then it becomes just your neighbor. But at some point, it was the new and strange thing. And I think that was the lens at which that stuff was seen through.
You're giving these folks way too much credit.
But can you agree that that's how people saw things back then?
I can agree that how people were depicted on television by the majority, it's how they were depicted in their reality. I can agree to that.
Yeah.
Yes, I can. Yes, absolutely. And I'm telling you that you're partly right, that there is an evolution. There's an evolution in every space.
Yeah.
Things move forward because of the need to expand.
And because of the internet.
Because
of communication with someone who previously would be like, this guy's from Muslim from North Africa. We don't know what those guys are all about. And then you talk to someone like, no, I also like, Rocket League. Oh, we have that in common.
Right.
That didn't exist back then.
I think there's a little naivete.
Okay.
Here. And that's perfect in this situation. But you have to understand that when you're dealing with the majority, right? And you're dealing with culture, America wants us to drink the Kool-Aid. They want a melting pot. They want all the flavors to be able to be what the majority is. Let me explain. There is a time, even today, where there's still not enough representation in the arts, whether it be through television, movies. At this time, the Latino community is growing at such a vast number that it could be very well said that they are the majority. But you will never see that in Hollywood. You will never, ever see the majority.
It's just not true.
I know it's not in my lifetime. I can speak for only...
No, in your lifetime.
In my lifetime. You think... You can look at television right now. You can go to your local televisions and you can see how many shows are represented by Latino or the black community. And you'll find that you'll still have the Friends, you'll still have the Big Bang Theories, you'll still have all of those be the number one, and they'll keep pushing those.
Who's the top pop stars right now?
It doesn't. The top pop star, I don't know. You tell me.
I don't
know shit.
All right, okay.
I don't know who the top
Although
stars.
she might truly be white, I heard some weird rumor. But Ariana Grande, she visually looks like a Latino girl, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Selena Gomez.
Yeah.
No mistaking that one.
I'm not going to mistake it.
Right. What I'm saying is that over the course of time, just naturally, because for whatever reason, that as the population number grows of a certain group, so will the media around.
Until there's proper ownership.
I don't like that it works that way. I think the best cream of the crop talent should rise.
I believe that too.
I just think on a mass
there is a reason
level
why.
that's not how that.
There's
that
a
works.
reason why there is a BET Awards. There's a reason why there's a Country Music Awards. There's a reason why there's a Latin Music Awards. You know why? Because the Grammys, the American Music Awards, and all the rest of them, the Emmys, all of those are saturated by white people. Saturated. So therefore, what we had to do in order to celebrate our own is we had to create our own. And I'm talking about not just black people. I said the Country Music Awards. They don't get enough representation. So do we know what they do? They create their own. They created their own awards because.
Right, but why are you looking as the Oscars or the Emmys as some sort of gold standard? Like now we have a situation in which there is more programming that does highlight the diversity which exists in real life.
It is the actor, the actress. That is their plight to get to these. I don't know why. I'm not an actor. Well, I know how to. Listen, I don't know why it's so important.
Well, that's people just putting up the Oscars or the Emmys on some high standard that doesn't even need to be on in the first place.
I don't know why
that's their own people's fault for holding that shit up like that.
I don't know why it's important to get a Grammy.
Not to me. But
exactly. But if I'm an artist,
right.
I don't know why that's. But
because it's the mainstream and mainstream money.
Yes.
Because it's mainstream money.
I guess so. It could be that. And you know what? It's nothing wrong with them getting that piece of the pie if their art represents what people want to listen to. I don't have a problem with that. But a lot of times, because of the lack of representation in these spaces and these award shows, we find that they're missing the cream of our crop.
You know what? Let's use. Sorry for people who don't want to hear this, but let's use wrestling as an example.
He's a wrestling fan, a pro wrestling fan.
And this guy's a Roman Reigns fan.
That's right. You're right. I love Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns.
And I love the Street Profits. Shout out to the Smoke.
Roman Reigns, being a Samoan, right now in our society is being portrayed on TV as just a standard wrestling character that is an athlete. And that's, I guess a bad guy now, but also portrayed as a good guy, but a American citizen. 30 years ago, the only thing he could have been cast as a savage. Based on his look, those tribal tattoos, and everything else. But what happened? That family was being portrayed as savages because that was their in, and that was the way they were making money. And that was that weird thing that was seen as, well, that's not all American. That's the weird foreigners. There were still shades of the Pacific War that people alive at that point were dealing with. Then The Rock came along. He's from that family too. And he mainstreamed them. Now you can have, oh boy, The Rock's got a young cousin. Man, he looks good. He's in great shape. He could talk nice. This is a process that happens over the time. So to just vilify the old days is some way, I get it, because some of that base was probably calling them really anti-Asian slurs in the crowd. Some of those old alcoholics and people who were, maybe around with some shadows of that, Pacific War. However, to not look back and have some sort of reverence for the levels of steps that we're taking to now reach a certain height is to say that ingredient should have been added into the pot from the beginning with the strongest maximum amount and saying, hey, everybody, we're all eating out of the same pot. There's a new ingredient. Let's just put a little sprinkle in, and if everyone likes it, we're going to add a little more. I don't know. I just think that's a cooler story than saying, the past was terrible, let's throw it away.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying you're right. There needs to be an evolution, and it has been. I'm saying I don't have a problem with Dr. Seuss. I'm saying I don't have a problem with the Aunt Jemima. I don't have a problem.
That's ridiculous.
I don't have a problem with this. I do understand that things have changed because of the strength of the e-commerce and the commerce of this country. And people, when we talk about change, we talk about dollars. Don't ever get it twisted. When we're talking about changing something, we're talking about how can we make more money. That's it. And if this is offending a certain group, that means they're not going to buy it. So therefore, we have to change it because we want all their money too.
Well,
That's how
all right.
corporations are created, and that is how they stay alive. So when I'm telling you, I don't have a problem with the fact that jazz musicians and actors. We talk about the woman who we look at. What was that film where the woman was playing the maid and she got the Oscar for it? Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Made in Manhattan, but
no, I'm not talking about The Help. Made in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Is that Jennifer Lopez?
Yeah.
You saw that, didn't you? You like her, don't you?
I mean,
tell the truth. You could do it, Jennifer Lopez, couldn't you? You could do it, Jennifer. All right. I digress. So I'm telling you that with that being said, I get it, and I don't have a problem with the evolution. I think black people are doing extremely well in certain spaces as long as they take ownership of them. My deal is ownership. The music ownership, the acting ownership, the movies ownership. If you take ownership in it and you disperse that, disseminate that, then we can create more. Then we don't have to depend on the structure that produces the Grammys.
Well, yeah, but
all that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's a great point. You have let's just say let's just say in the case of the movies, right?
Right.
It was run by, at least at first, the white Protestant.
Now the Jewish people run them now, but
right. But that's back in the day when Gone with the Wind was.
That was back in the day when Gone with the Wind. Oh, wait, sorry, hold on. Got it. Technical difficulty there, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this on YouTube, that was me controlling the lights. If you're listening, we're back.
Let's go purely tribal with that. And again, it's not right. And in our current context, there needs to be an evolution. But back in the day, there was these people that ran the film business that said, we have a role for your people, and it's to dance in this weird way. That person, we could say that's wrong. But that person, just like in the case of Aunt Jemima, that person built up something and then became ownership because of that earlier work. And then now that has ownership, calls a shot their way. So to deny that denies the actual progress that was made in a weird way. Like maybe history is not the most pretty, but there's still a struggle and a strife that goes on. And to deny that part is actually to eliminate part of the story from our minds.
I agree. I totally concur. And be mindful, the only way that movie could have been successful, the only way that music has been successful is because someone had to see it, listen to it, and purchase it. They had to go buy a ticket.
Yeah.
So what you do, even that is the reason why Hollywood is the way it is now. It's tickets. It's not about who's in it. How are we going to sell tickets? So yes, you're right. It's about making sure that what's on visually, are people going to be pleased to see it? And they don't want to see black people as a president in 1930. Who's going to go see that movie? Who's going to go see that movie in 1930 that a black man is able
I mean, if Quentin
to outdo a white man?
Yeah, if it was like a Quentin Tarantino movie, I would go see it.
Yeah, but there was no Quentin Tarantino movies back then, though. Right? Yeah. So it's important.
Right. If you made that movie back then, it wouldn't have registered.
Who would have produced that movie?
It actually might have been. People might have showed up with pitchforks.
Yeah, and that's how you have movies like Birth of a Nation, where you see black people depicted in a negative way. That's because you know why? Because people want to see it. They want it to be a part of saying these Negroes are the ones who are going. That's what this whole time was about.
That was purposely malicious, whereas Gone with the Wind is just historically.
They sold tickets.
I don't think there was malice in writing the character in Gone with the Wind.
I don't. That's why she won. That's why she won the award, because there was it just was a part of a period of time where this is what black people were doing. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. At some point when the Oscars comes up, I want to have the conversation about their new restrictions about the representation and how you could even get nominated for an Oscar. You need to be like, it needs to have a certain like diversity quotas, even just to be in consideration to be nominated for an Oscar. It's a larger conversation. We'll do some research.
This one.
Well, maybe around the Oscars we could do something like that.
Is that during this time? I don't want to talk about the Oscars this year. Fuck the Oscars, man. I don't want to talk about any award show, even though I believe Chadwick won Best Actor he won Best Actor for the Emmy for Mom's Mabel. I think something. I saw the movie here, as a matter of fact. I think I was in here. But anyway,
Can I offer a quick counter on the Aunt Jemima thing?
if you must. Now,
Okay.
You wrote a letter today, Christopher.
No, this is. I don't think this will be letter worthy. In the case of Aunt Jemima, you said about the business and stuff like that. Well, the data of the Aunt Jemima situation would show that there actually was a lot of black consumers of Aunt Jemima, and they weren't the one offended. And so, in this regard, it was actually not the company making a business decision, but more being influenced by the PR and marketing side who subscribe to this religion of wokeness. And a lot of times these people are rich white liberals, rich white woke people. Like some of the times it's just companies trying to get ahead of where they think a trend is going, and the actual group that they are being offended for is not actually offended.
Yeah. I've seen that. I saw that with the Redskins, Washington. I saw that too. Now Washington.
The Washington football team?
The Washington football team last year, they didn't have a mascot because they're debating what direction you're going in. They decided that they were going to get rid of the term Redskins because obviously it's a derogatory term toward Native Americans, right? Native Americans have gotten to the point where it doesn't matter. It wasn't a big deal, even though, as I've said on a past podcast, it's not about the present, it's about the past. And what you're doing is you're honoring all the people you disrespected over, let me finish. You're honoring all the people that you disrespected over the years. And that is how you understand how to pay homage to your past, because you fucked up before when you started this. But the people today are saying, just pay us. You use our logo. You use our logo for over 30 years. Pay the community for doing it. It's our image.
Well,
pay us.
That's the other thing. Okay,
you use the image. That's what they're saying.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Why couldn't you rename the Redskins to the, I don't know what the local group is, but say like in New York, the Cherokees? Why couldn't you do something like that instead of saying, now you have no representation because we wouldn't want to offend you.
Because
so we're taking away all your representation.
Because listen,
even though we're going from bad to nothing rather than bad to good.
Because they need to do.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right?
but
now Aunt Jemima. Now the story of Aunt Jemima is not even being told because now that syrup's just some generic. I'm not buying any of that syrup.
Well, listen, it's
like the milling company.
It's a staple in my house.
The milling, but now it's milling company. It's some like generic name. It's like that's so much less rich in terms of any sort of history than what it was before. So it's like that's not an evolution. That's just nothing.
Well, listen, I eat flapjacks, bro. So I don't, I use molasses.
I'm jealous of you because if I did that,
bro,
I wouldn't even be fitting on the screen right now.
Bro, I'm not going to talk about your size and girth. Let's go. So listen, at the end of the day, what we have to understand is that we're in.
Is it Girth Day coming up? Girth Day? Should we start a new holiday?
No, it's not Girth Day.
Sorry,
they're not handing out girth certificates or plaques or trophies because you would win at least for third place or honorable mention. You get a certificate for sure, Mr. Girthy.
Thanks.
New name, Mr. Girthy.
Participation award.
As we continue, get back on track here with me, sir. Are you back on track?
Yes.
Thank you. What we need to talk about and clear up is that, again, I am not for the non-publication of these books. Now, if you have one, obviously it's going to be for a lot of money in 200 years. But yeah, it's going to. So if you have these books, please keep them.
That's a good point, man. Yeah. Something drives up the value.
Exactly. So if you have one, don't get rid of it. Don't burn it. Don't become a part of this trend. Keep it. Read it to your children. Explain to them what the hell they're looking at. Explain that. And let's move on from this. So I am a supporter of Dr. Seuss. I love Dr. Seuss. I love his books. I think they're corny. I love his story. I love the fact that he had created all of this stuff and then did one book and it took off. There's a big library in San Diego. And actually, it's in La Jolla, California. The school there has a Dr. Seuss library. This huge. Look it up. Go on Google. Look up La Jolla, California, Dr. Seuss library. And there's a huge mural of him in front of it. So I'm a big fan. So I was a little disturbed by this.
Yeah.
So anyway, Chris,
yes.
You wanted to talk about something before we cut out. We're almost done, ladies.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out.
No.
What?
I thought you were going to talk about the Trump shit.
Oh, right. Okay. That shout out might have to wait.
Okay, all right.
All right, I did a quick. I just watched Trump at CPAC, his speech, his coming out party. It was interesting. He came out too proud to be an American, but he let it ride. He let the song ride before taking the stage. Here's some things he said. This is just me writing it down. Miss me yet? We've been doing a lot of winning. Why would I start a new party when we have this one? Actually, the Democrats just lost the White House, but it's just one of those things. Actually, I might have to beat them for a third time.
He's such an idiot.
He kind of talked about the transgender thing, which we can talk about in the future. Lots of new records being set in women's sport. Hate to say that, ladies. Then he said Supreme Court didn't have the guts or the courage. Then he got real vicious on that one. He says, we let them, the liberals, attack our businesses, and we don't attack their businesses. The implication being attack their businesses. Then he says, this was great. We got more votes than any incompetent incumbent president.
Listen.
And then he left to YMCA with people. I think that's why he used that song, because old people could dance to that song.
Well, listen. You've heard it. Go back and see it. We're done. We're out of here. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your support. In the immortal words of my father, don't ever let the times change the lines in your smile. Peace. American Lunchbox Podcast, episode 32.